Hello and welcome to the Etoft21sports Show for February 28th. How is everyone doing? We had a great week last week. If you turned in, Caleb gave out Gonzaga over St. Mary's. Told you guys to take the points. Plus, he gave you Arkansas plus the points against Bama. Old Uncle Rico himself, myself gave out Colorado plus the points against UCLA. We almost got that juicy money line home. Told you guys it was going to be a close game. Thought UCLA was primed for the upset there. And we got LSU over Vanderbilt. Plus, if you listen to the podcast, myself and Brandon, we gave out Kyle Busch 10-1 in NASCAR. So a lot of great winners handed out. Hope you guys were listening to the show and the podcast. We have a great show for you lined up today. Jack from the DRF Sportsbook is this week's special guest. Him and I are going to look back at last week's college basketball slate, tell you some futures to lock in, tell you some bets to lock in for later in the week. Plus, Gino will give you his horse racing bet of the day. Last week, Gino gave out a nice 4-1 winner at Parx. Let's see what Gino has a cooking for us tomorrow at Parx.
Our best bet this week comes over at Parx, and it's going to come in race number 7. We're going to take a look at the number 6 in here, Midnight Track. It looks like there's a good amount of speed in this particular race, and if you look at Midnight Track's recent form, he just does not have a ton of early speed. This race should set up very well for him. February the 20th, he was behind a field that went really slow early and behind a gate-to-wire winner. And if you just look right next door, you have horses like Clear Cut, who will be forwardly placed. Have to imagine the 3 will want to be close to or right on the lead. And towards the inside, you have the 1, the Method, and even farther towards the outside, a little bit more speed in here with some pace foes. So I think we can see at least 2, probably 3 horses pushing it. It should set up much better for Midnight Trick. 8-1 on the morning line. This one should come running late. Anything around 6-1 is fair. We'll make a win wager on Midnight Trick. Best of luck over at Parx on Wednesday. Remember, we'll be here with you each and every week for a best bet. Always tune in to Erik's show for the best information you're going to find in all of sports. Good luck.
Let's see if we can make it 2 in a row for Gino. Make sure you check out his podcast. That's what G said. I am on it every single week. This week, we're going to be focusing on NBA and XFL. Jim, yes, Nebraska is beating Michigan State right now. Thank you for the reminder. Now, without further ado, let's welcome Jack from the DRF Sportsbook to the show. Jack, how you doing today, my man?
Doing fantastic. A wonderful Tuesday, and I have a lot to live up to after what Caleb did last week. It sounds like.
You know what, Caleb, he gave out. He went 2 for 3 last week. I'm upset that I couldn't get home that Colorado money line. Go white. It's a Michigan State thing. I don't know if you're familiar with that, Jack, but when you're out and someone yells out "Go Green," you got to yell out "Go white." That's just the thing we do, us Spartans, my friend.
All right, every school has their thing. Penn State, we are, JMU. People would yell out JMU, and you have to respond with Duke. So I get the vibe.
So you mentioned JMU. I'm going to make a note because when we get to our futures talk, I want to ask you a question about JMU. But before we get into all that, we need to talk about last week's takeaway. Really interesting week, I felt, of college basketball. Why don't you go into what your first takeaway was from the weekend that was?
Yeah, it feels like every weekend at this point in college basketball is just like getting wackier with the one teams that just keep falling. And every week it seems like you have a grasp on what's going to happen, and then it all hits the fan, and you're left kind of trying to figure out what happened. For me, the first takeaway, and it kind of hurts me because I've been high on Iowa State. I've been defending them to people. I've said this is a real team. They're going through a little bit of a rough patch. The Big 12's good, but Iowa State's going to be a force. They're going to go on another run this year. I'm all out on Iowa State. After losing, back-to-back home games, they've lost 8 of their last 10, 3 of their last 4 home games. The Cyclones just don't have the ability on offense to really do anything.
And you hit the nail on the head. Defense is elite. Offense, they just don't have that guy that can get the bucket. And
No one like no and with their St. Bonaventure transfers, especially Osuna, I may be mispronouncing his name. He's a dude, but he's not a bucket getter. They had Gabe Kalsher, who's kind of a bucket getter for them, go out with with foul issues last night against who'd they play? West Virginia. It just feels like they're
great
okay.
cover by West Virginia. Great cover for me by West Virginia. Phenomenal cover.
Great game. I mean, West Virginia's firing on all cylinders here in these must-win games all of a sudden.
And like they're a team that I think would be a tough out.
West Virginia, 100%.
They're going to be at that 11 line, that playing game. They're going to be an insanely tough out for a 6 team that I would hate to play them. My first takeaway is this: the turnaround at Arizona has been great, because I really do feel there's certain teams that when they're good, it's just good for the brand of college basketball. And I put Arizona in that category, but I don't trust them to win the title this year. And the reasons were highlighted in last week's game against Arizona State. The guard play is very inconsistent, and the coaching mistake at the end of the game cost them the game. And in a quick turnaround, I need to be able to trust the coach, and I don't trust Tommy Lloyd. For those that didn't watch, was this: they were up 87-86. Ballo missed the first free throw, and Arizona State had 0 timeouts, and there was less than 2 seconds to play. That's a no-brainer. Just throw it up on the rim, miss the free throw, let the time expire, boom, game is over. He makes the free throw, and then there's that half-court heave. Now, granted, that was a miraculous shot, but you allowed Arizona State to get a running start. I don't understand how, as a coach, you don't realize that situation. Just yell in and just be like, hey, miss the free throw. Let's just get out of here. I can't look past that. And plus, the guard play is so inconsistent.
Yeah.
I just don't trust Arizona this year.
100%. I get that. Tommy Lloyd, young coach. He's in his second year at the helm with Arizona after spending 20 years behind Mark Few as an assistant at Gonzaga. I think he'll be a great coach. I don't think he is currently one of the elite coaches that you can rely on, hang your hat on. Like every year, you knew Coach K was going to win a few games just based off of his coaching stature alone. I don't think Tommy Lloyd is that right now. I think he can be, but I think right now, Tommy Lloyd, I get that.
Now, second takeaway. Let's hear it, my man.
All right. And this is kind of a cop-out takeaway. It's a weird one. Tennessee playing right now as we're recording, so this could change. Despite losing 4 of their last 6, that could be 5 of their last 7. They could get back in the win column. They're playing, I believe, Arkansas right now. Tennessee's still legit. Like, we can't look past Tennessee for like this last stretch. They still have really, really solid defensive play. They're still a top 4 team in KenPom. Zagai Ziegler went down today in that Arkansas game, so that's something to keep an eye on to see how that impacts them moving forward. Their defense is just so good. But with that being said, if you're looking for a round of 64 team that is a heavy money line favorite that you want to sprinkle, let's say a quarter of a unit, maybe you want to get a little fun with it, put a full unit down on it, I think they're the team you fade in the round of 64. Rick Barnes, his coaching history in the NCAA tournament isn't great, and Tennessee kind of gives me UVA of 2016 vibes when they lost to UMBC. Great defense. That offense lacks a lot of mustard.
So I'm going to give you the team that I think can beat them.
Hit me.
Colgate.
Yeah, 100%. Colgate every year. Remember the year Colgate was like number 1 in the net or something? And
yeah,
everyone thought they were going to take down Arkansas in the first round, and they nearly did. They got dudes who can shoot. They don't got athletes, but they got dudes who can shoot. And if they can get out of the Patriot League, I'm right there with you.
Now, you mentioned it. Teams that can shoot. We've talked about this off air. And it may have changed. I looked over the weekend. It was like teams are shooting 27% on wide open threes against Tennessee. I just really feel that because of how poorly the SEC shoots three is that one of these teams is going to go against that guard that just doesn't miss.
Yeah. I mean, Colgate.
That's my worry. And Colgate can fire it up, and they're going to be a 15th seed. We need to remember that.
Yeah. Colgate is currently, according to Ken Pom, #1 in the country in effective field goal percentage. They're shooting at 58% from the field. Just otherworldly. Other team to keep an eye on, and this is another team that they have to win their conference tournament to make the NCAA tournament. Oral Roberts, another team that has the potential to take down Tennessee.
You mentioned this team earlier, and this is who I put a wager on to win the Fun Belt. JMU.
Okay.
I think JMU is sneaky good, and if they win the Sun Belt, they do Southern Miss is good.
Yep.
Marshall is good. That's a good ass conference.
Yeah, Marshall's good.
Sneaky good.
If they South Alabama,
South Alabama's good, and South Alabama's playing a lot better. If they can get through, I think that's another team that could win one because of how effectively they are offensively.
I think the top 4 seeds in the Sun Belt tournament all have the ability to win an NCAA tournament game. I think Marshall, if we want to get in the weeds of Sun Belt real quick, I think Marshall gives you the best chance as a conference to get a win in the NCAA tournament. I don't know if Marshall is necessarily a lock to win the Sun Belt, but yeah, I agree. The way JMU plays, fast-paced, they turn you over. If they're not turning it over and they're just a very streaky team. They have a bunch of three-point guys who, if they're hitting, they can put up 100, but if they're not, they struggle to put up 50.
Now, the one thing with Marshall is they're not deep. So if they switch over to that quick turnaround, I think they could struggle in those quick turnaround type games.
Yeah, 100%.
Now, I need to bring this up. We are going. I didn't prep you for this. This was the big thing that happened over the weekend in the Michigan State game. Give me your reaction to this scene, dude.
This might be a weird thing, and maybe I'll get some flack for saying this. DRF Sportsbook only live in Iowa, so we kind of have to show love to the Iowans and to the Iowa sports. I don't love this from Fran McCaffrey. I also don't love Fran McCaffrey. He gives me old man, get off my lawn type of vibes. And this gives me those vibes even more. Bro, you got a technical. Sit down. Your team's down 10. Go drop a play in the huddle. Don't stare down the ref because you couldn't control. I'll get off. I didn't love it. I mean, it's funny, but I don't love it.
I thought it was kind of funny. I thought he should have got a tech for this because
yeah,
I was having flashbacks. Do you remember? The Lakers were playing the Blazers.
Okay.
And our boy Gino, because he's a huge Laker fan, will probably hate to stand this. Blazers were getting hosed that game back in the day. Rashid got a tee, and then he just looked at the official. Just looked at him. And then they gave him another tee. Didn't say one word. And I mean, come on, you're sending a message there. You're trying to intimidate an official. I thought it was funny when it happened.
Yeah.
But come on, he should have got teed up for that.
100%. Yeah.
Now, my second takeaway is this. All we're going to hear about going into the tournament is how great the Big 12 is. And I'm going to say it now. I really feel that the top teams in the Big 12 are going to underperform. Kansas has been playing better because they have been going to the rim. At the beginning of the year, midway through the Big 12 season, they were relying on Grady Dick a lot to shoot threes. I really feel they could revert back to that. And if they play a team that forces them to shoot a lot of threes with that pack line defense, I think they're going to struggle.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I'm just getting over a cold, man. I've been having these, huge throat issues.
That sounds terrible.
Texans, sorry. Excuse me. I don't trust the coaching staff, the guard play. Plus, I use bracket matrix a lot. They're going to be on the 2 line. Excuse me one more time. I'm sorry.
All good. I'll take a sip with you.
Now, do you have water or tequila there, my friend?
Straight vodka. No, it's water right now. It'll turn into this. How Jesus turned water into wine. This will magically turn into beer here after this.
Now, according to bracket matrix, they're on the 2 line. And their possible second-round matchups of 7 and 10 seeds are Kentucky, Duke, Illinois, Michigan State, Auburn, NC State, Pitt, and Boise State. I can see them losing to any one of those teams. I'm not going to lie, because I think they really would struggle in that. Kansas State, you just look at their home road splits. All this team has shown us is you can't trust them on the road. Baylor can be exposed in the interior and its injury concerns. To me, TCU, excuse me, is the only team that I trust to make a run in the conference.
Do you have home road with Kansas State? Yeah, because my two would be TCU and K-State with the trusting, because they're the most well-rounded teams. Maybe West Virginia, though, if West Virginia gets in.
Well, if West Virginia gets in, they could get. Jim chimes in, I used to rip straight vodka to get over my hangovers.
Love that. That sounds lovely.
Now, I will say this. One person who is a wedding photographer told me what she has people do when they're hungover, and this is to educate our young viewers.
Yeah, of course.
Over 21. 7-Up, because it makes them
Like
belch, burp, and it gets everything out of their system. So, hey, you know what? We inform people how to get over hangovers.
I pop ibuprofen, drink some coffee, and then start with the Bloody Mary.
I just like TCU because they have the interior game in Lampkin, and they have Miles, who I feel is one of the best point guards in the land. I feel they're a little under the radar because of injuries. They can get out in transition. My one worry with them is shooting the three, but they're so good interior defense. I think this is a team that can make a run, and they're going to be a little undervalued. Plus, I got them at 75-1 back in March.
Yeah, okay. A little bit of priors there coming into that one. I like TCU. I see where you're coming from, where the Big 12 is the best conference in college basketball, right? Like, from a whole, they are damn good. They're beating up on each other every night. They're getting good on good. You know, iron sharpens iron. All of those old cliches everyone uses to describe SEC football, everything like that. But the issue is kind of what you said. Every team is lacking something. Kansas, I don't love Kansas. I don't fully trust them to be able to run it back. And all the other ones just like don't have a fully rounded game, right? Like they have a really good offense with a lackluster defense, or a really good defense and a lackluster offense. And then I think come March, we may see that play a huge role in a lot of these games.
Now, I'm going to tell you the teams I have futures on. And we didn't go over this. I'm just going to rattle off who I have futures on. You tell me if you like them or you don't like them. Obviously, okay. I mentioned I have TCU, I think, at like 75-1.
I like that value. You can't hate that value at all.
I have Indiana at 40-1.
I don't love that.
I have Arkansas at 50-1.
I like that a little bit more.
I got San Diego State University at 100-1.
Love that. San Diego State, currently 16th in Ken Palm, 44th best offense, 12th best defense. That's a team right there that is sneaky come March that could put a run and really prop up the Mountain West Conference.
Plus, they have Bradley, who can take over a game and can get you that bucket. They have that one guy that can generate offense.
I love San Diego State. That's wow. Okay.
Now, this one, they can be exposed on the interior. Elite guard play, phenomenal offense, experienced coach who has gotten to a Final Four. At 95-1, Miami.
No.
Not feeling it?
No, you don't lose to Florida State in a final and being a Final Four team.
But they didn't have Pack, though. They didn't have their best player. They didn't have Pack, though.
Okay, Florida State is so bad.
They're bad. I got Creighton at 35-1.
I'm going to say this. There's a bias for me with Creighton. I've every year in every March Madness bracket challenge betting pool that I'm in, I'll always have Creighton winning a few, getting into the Sweet 16 because I'm always like, they got the dudes. Every year they let me down. Every year.
And the last one, UConn at 30-1.
I like UConn. I think a lot of people jumped off the hype train because I think it was a bad December or January for them. They've had a really good February. They're a really good team, really well coached, experienced. I have a question for you, though, when you're figuring out which teams that you like to make a run. Do you value interior defense or experienced guard play more?
See, that's a tough one, dude. I value so I like interior defense. I like the second chance points. I know everyone's going to say Miami. This is my thought process with Miami. When I saw Miami at 95-1, I'm thinking to myself, hey, you know what? They have a guard play. They have one of the better offenses. They have Pack who can take over a game. And when I have them at 95-1, all I need them to do is make it to the Sweet 16. And then I can just start hedging, and I'm going to lock myself into profit. So that's why I took a team like that. But I value the interior play more. Okay. Not really a dominant big man, but be able to rebound and limit second chance points. That's what I value. I'd like not like a dominant guy like an Edie, but just being able to limit second chance points.
Yeah, and be able to create second chance points on the other side as well. That's a good point. I value personally. I'm more of an experienced guard play type of guy, but interior defense, I can understand why you get behind that.
Now, we're going to shift our attention to the future market. I will say this. My lovely Detroit Mercy got off to a great start on my 25-1 ticket. I have big win today. You know, they're starting off going against Wright State tomorrow. I absolutely love that team. I know they play zero effing defense, but you know what? They can score. They can score. They can fill it up. I love that team. You know what? 1 down, 3 to go, my friend.
Wow.
What is one of your futures, my friend?
I'm looking in the Sun Belt. It's the conference I know best. I've watched way too much Sun Belt conference for my own liking. It may be kind of a snooze of a pick, but I think Marshall will walk their way through the Sun Belt and win that conference. They're just so good. They have 2 of the best players in the Sun Belt. Tavion Kinsey is Sun Belt Player of the Year. He's a absolute monster. They begin their play in the Sun Belt tournament. I believe it's, today's Tuesday. They're off Wednesday. They'll play Thursday. I believe Thursday is when they play. Sun Belt does a very weird conference. But so lock that in. They're still, I believe, around plus 200. I think that's a fantastic bet.
Sun Belt, are they playing right now? Are they playing?
Yeah. So their play-in games are happening now. So I believe.
Oh, yeah, because I hit my Coastal Carolina first half under bet. I totally forgot about that.
So markets are down right now, so it may adjust a little bit. But I believe last time I checked, they were around plus 200. Gonna lock that in once I know their first round matchup because that kind of impacts it. But yeah.
Now this is totally random. One of the funnest conference tournaments I ever been at was Conference USA. And the way it's fun is because they have 2 separate games going on at the same time. I mean, it is if you're a basketball junkie, that is a phenomenal tournament to go to just because of how the setup is. Now, this is deep. I went deep in this. I went to the Big South.
I see that.
I went to the Big South. Winthrop at 13-1. Now they are 17th in the country in effective field goal percentage. They're playing hot, entering the tournament, winning 4 in a row, 7 of the last 10. The path is good. They play Radford, which allowed the 4th best three-point shooting percentage in the conference, and Winthrop is the 2nd best three-point shooting team in the conference. Plus, the way Radford plays, they're not going to get run out of the gym. Radford isn't an elite offense. Then they have Longwood, who they beat last time by 2 at home. And then UNC Ashford has huge holes on both sides of the ball. They're the top seed in the conference. And I'm getting 13-1 on the best shooting team and one of the hottest teams in the conference. To me, that's an absolute no-brainer, and I have to take it.
Well, when you put it like that, I 100% agree. I mean, what can go wrong? Like, looking at it, but also what a deep cut with the Big South. I mean, that is one of the worst college basketball conferences in the country, and you're in deep in how Winthrop is going to win that. And I mean, I don't not like
Well,
it.
I'm still pissed because last year I had Campbell to win that conference, and they lost in the finals, I think, to Long Grove in overtime. And I was like, oh my, I grinded out like 4 days in a row of Big South Campbell basketball only for them to lose to Long Grove. Now, do you have any other teams that you're looking at in terms of the future market?
This is a weird one. Oral Roberts could be fun
Yeah.
if you can find a market for them to make the Sweet 16. The only market I could find up right now is to make a Final Four. I think Oral Roberts has what it takes. They're on one of the nation's longest winning streaks. They're an experienced tournament team. Max Asmus, who I believe it was 2 years ago during the COVID, it all blends together now, but he balled out and they pulled off a few upsets in that one, and now they're an even better team than they were then. I think Oral Roberts has what it takes to be that St. Peter's-esque team this season, but even better than St. Peter's because they're like a legit team. And that's no shade to St. Peter's. They just got hot for the right 2 weekends, where I think Oral Roberts is a legitimate mid-major team that can shock some people. So
Now,
we can find a market for them.
Per bracket matrix, they have them on the 12th line.
See, that's so hot. Good
That
for them.
is utter respect.
That's claps because I wouldn't think they're that high because they're playing in the Summit League, but
These are the five. These are who else is on the 5 line.
okay.
And basically, for those watching, what Bracket Matrix does, and it is by far one of the most accurate site, is it just looks at all these and it just takes an average and it just kind of compiles them where they are every week on average. 5 line is San Diego State, St. Mary, Miami, Florida, and TCU.
So 2 of those, I like the matchup. I like the Miami Florida matchup, and I like the TCU matchup. St. Mary's scares me because I think St. Mary's may win the WCC. So does San Diego State, but that would be epic mid-major battles, right? Mountain West, WCC, Summit
If
League.
they go St. Mary's, Oral Roberts first round, I would be livid. I would be so livid. Now, I need to ask you this, and I was a little disappointed because this is the one I dove into. I just think that this year the Missouri Valley is just Drake or Bradley. You know what I mean? Like I just feel like the drop off between those two. Usually that conference, there's like 4 teams that can win it. You know, Belmont came in, they're the 3 seed. I really don't trust them. You got Indiana State, which has been inconsistent. To me, it's just one of those 2, and they're just such heavy favorites. I think it's like plus 170 and plus 210. I just can't get involved in that conference. It's just disappointing because I love betting that conference tournament. That's one of my favorite ones to bet.
Yeah, currently Drake plus 135, Bradley plus 165, and then Belmont's plus 650. I'm right there with you. I think it's Drake. Personally, I think it's Drake and then Bradley, and then it's a bunch of poo-poo.
Yeah.
That'd be fun if they were good. I mean, Indiana State, isn't that where Larry Bird went or something like that? Shouldn't they return to the greatness that they were, the Sycamores? But yeah, a few of these too. Like the CAA used to be a fantastic conference because while it was bad, the Colonial always had like parity. So the 6 seed could upset the 1 seed. But this year it's like College of Charleston, maybe Hofstra, no one. And it kind of takes the fun out of the mid-major betting.
Now, is there any we need to talk about Alabama for a real quick. Now,
I put them down. I love them, but I hate them.
Let's talk Alabama because I have my issues with Alabama. And I 2 weeks ago I said this on the show. I said that Alabama and Tennessee weren't going to make it out of the first weekend. Now, that this is why. But it goes back to the thing where it's like if they play a good 3-point shooting team, I think these SEC teams are going to get exposed, because going into last week, there was teams were shooting, I think it was like 21% against in Alabama on 3-pointers. You get that team. You get I don't even know who's on the 8-9 right now. You get like an Iowa that can just shoot lights out against an Alabama. I don't know athletically if they can keep up with them. NC State, a Florida Atlantic, teams that can shoot the ball. I could see them losing, and that I guess that's my point, because and the way they play offense, where it's just isolation ball, I don't think can be trusted. Now Miller's great, and I don't really know what's going to happen with him.
Yeah,
but I just think there's a lot of holes in Alabama that could be exposed.
I can get behind the Tennessee take. I love Alabama to win the national championship. I can't put a future on it because there's way too much turmoil around that program. I don't know if Brandon Miller is going to play. You just don't know what this team will look like in 24 or 48 hours. You just don't know. So I'm staying away from it, but I love them. I think they lean into analytics basketball so well. They only shoot threes or close layups. They play at an extremely high tempo. They are going to dictate that they're going to force you to play at their pace, which is the second fastest pace in the country. They have an elite defense. Is that some of playing SEC competition? It could be. But I think they have a fully well-rounded roster, and I really like Nate Oates as a coach. I think he fully believes in what he's coaching. I think Alabama's a legitimate team. I think the question marks around them, for me, aren't on the basketball court. They're on the courtroom.
Yeah, and we don't know what happened. Yeah. So we're not going to speculate anything. But I will say this: the lights of the media are a lot brighter.
Yeah. During
March Madness, as opposed to an SEC game on Wednesday night. So that's something we need to keep advantage of. Now let's shift our attention over to the bets. We each have some bets we're going to give out. So, Jack, you're the guest. I'm going to let you kick it off, my friend.
Yeah, remember when you said you really like TCU and you're not a big fan of Texas? I'm all over TCU tomorrow. I think they will be the money line dog if the lines aren't out already. But college basketball, I'm not a fan of how the lines are done.
They are actually laying 2.5.
Really? I'm still on them. I'll take a minus 2.5. I honestly expected them to open up as a money line dog, but I'll take them minus 2.5. I think TCU matches up extremely well. TCU likes to play inside. Texas doesn't have the best interior defense, according to Ken Palm. I think that matchup is really good for them, and that's fair. I'll never roll Tide either. That's why.
If they make me money, so that is
So you're rolling Tide. You're rolling Tide. If they're making you money, you're gonna roll Tide.
So Misty's rolling Tide if they make money, and you know what? I'll roll Tide too if they make me money and I bet them. So that's a fair point.
That's a good point. I'm also what's the Horn Frogs thing? I'm rolling horns. I don't know. I couldn't make that segue, but give me TCU to beat Texas tomorrow. I like the Horn Frogs.
And I think TCU is just going to feast on the interior.
Yeah, 100%.
I think that's a huge advantage of them.
Yeah.
Now, I think this is a great situational spot. I'm looking at it right now. You can, depending on the shop, you can get anywhere from 3.5 to 4.5. I'm going to be on Notre Dame tomorrow. You have its Bray's last home game coaching Notre Dame. Love the situation with everything Bray has done. That place is going to be absolutely rocking in South Bend. Plus, let's look at the situation. Pitt has Miami on deck, and the winner of that game is going to win the ACC regular season title. This has classic look ahead with the team at the bottom of the conference being pumped, ready to play. I am on Notre Dame plus the 4.5, and I'll probably take a little bit of the money line too.
I love that. I love situational spots in college basketball.
Now, let me pull up. I wonder what the money line is for that. Money line's plus 150. Yep. I'm going to be on. I'll take the plus 150 all day on that too.
Yeah.
So I'll be on the plus 150 and the plus 4.5. Jack, what is your second bet, my friend?
South Alabama, whatever points they're laying against App State, take them. South Alabama's going to crush App State in the second round of the Sun Belt tournament.
Now, we're talking about futures and everything, and we're talking about the fun. I call it the fun belt.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
I'm going to say it. I'm still a little salty from Georgia State. Like, I was so high on Georgia State football this year, and they completely crapped the bet on me. I had never been so high on a football team this year in a while, and they just completely crapped me out.
I saw them in person this year. They played JMU at JMU. They weren't great.
Yeah, they were. I thought with who they had coming back, I had such high expectations for them. Now, South Alabama, I was a little bit high on South Alabama. I actually bet them beginning of the year when they did play Alabama and cover.
Mm-hmm.
But we're just kind of looking at their schedule to start the year. They played at New Mexico, lost by 6. Played Alabama, lost by 10. At Oklahoma, lost by 4. They played UAB when UAB was fully healthy, lost by 8. And then I'm just kind of looking at it. They won, what was it, 6 out of 7 to end the season before they lost to Louisiana. Could this be a team that's kind of getting right at the right time?
Yes, 100%. This is so it was kind of a dual-edged bet here because I think South Alabama will take down App State. App State's a team that relies heavily on the 3, and they're very streaky at shooting the 3. So if they're hitting it, maybe they can win this game. And if they're not, they're definitely not winning this game. Kevin Samuel, best defensive player in the entire Sun Belt. But I think if you're looking for a Cinderella-type team to make a run in their conference tournament that you could get some good value at, South Alabama is that team. For all the reasons you mentioned, they're one of the better teams in the Sun Belt in terms of KenPom. They're efficient. They play good defense. And they finish the season off so strong. I think South Alabama has a route. I don't think Southern Miss, they're the one team in the Sun Belt. I don't think Southern Miss is the best team in the Sun Belt.
Yeah.
So they can play them, and then they should be able to match up fairly well against Southern Miss. And then they're all the way into the semifinals where they'll play JMU. Assuming it's JMU, could be a couple other opportunities, or Troy most likely. I think that's also a favorable matchup. South Alabama beat JMU earlier this year by 1 point. It was a close game, came down to the wire. But they still got that win. Then you get there and you're in the championship. Like it's not a terrible path for South Alabama to win the Sun Belt.
No, it's a very doable path. And I like this team. I was very high on this team, and they seem to kind of be figuring it out a little bit to end the season.
They also have played such a better schedule than most of the Sun Belt.
Yeah, they're battle tested. They've been in the trenches. My next bet, and this one is all the way on Saturday, but it's another look ahead. VCU on Saturday will have the A-10 locked up. Why? You know what I mean? Like, this is a classic. We're the conference championship. We're on the road. It's the last game of the season. We don't want to get anyone hurt going into the conference tournament, going into March. Now, I will say this. I think they're locked to get in. I think they're in. So I don't, you know what I mean? Like, if it was different, if this was like, if they needed to, like,
they're on the bubble, they're the first.
If they're on, you know what I mean? Like on the bubble or whatever, I think it would be a more cohesive effort because you want to peak going into the tournament. But I think they're locked in. I think they just want to stay healthy. And they're only 40% ATS on the road as favorites this season against the George Washington team. Last game of the year, last thing to play for in front of the home crowd. They're going to be getting a ton of points. I'm going to be on George Washington here plus the points on Saturday in a dirty A-10 matchup.
That is anytime George Washington is playing in a game, that's a dirty A-10 matchup.
You know what? This is going to be one of those games I'm going to have to find someone on TikTok live that's going to be live streaming it because it's not going to be on ESPN Plus. You know what I mean? It's going to be hard as hell to find one of those links.
That's also going to be a hard game to watch because like VC, it's just going to be ugly.
I survived on Saturday night a Boise State San Jose State game, so I can survive anything, my friend.
I'm sorry.
And San Jose State won and straight up covered. So, actually, I mentioned Boise State before we get into our last two bets. You mentioned futures, you mentioned Sweet 16. Now, maybe, you know what? My boy Bobby, he always calls me out on this. He says I have Mountain West bias.
So I'm right there with you. I love the Mountain West.
I like San Diego State. I think they could make a run. And with the way Boise State plays defense and it being so wide open this year, you talked about Sweet 16 futures. That's a team I could see making it to the Sweet 16.
If you can find those futures, I think the Mountain West can have a solid showing.
I love that team. Another team I found. Now I'm spaced. There's one guy I found on Twitter, and he put every conference who had the heart. He basically looked at who played the weakest opponents during their offseason.
Mm-hmm.
And Utah State, the worst opponent they played was the 200th best team in the country, which shocked my eyes. So that's another team I kind of feel is a little battle tested.
Yeah.
Maybe a dark horse in the Mountain West.
22-7. They have the 17th best offense in the country.
Yeah.
I can see it.
I mean, I think that's a team that's a little under the radar. Jack, what is your third bet, my friend?
Fun one. Charlotte over UTSA, folks. Let's get crazy with some Conference USA action. We all love them. Charlotte, their head coach is Ron Sanchez. He was an assistant with UVA and Tony Bennett for the longest time, and he deploys the pack line down here in the Queen City. They live and die by the defense. This is a team, Charlotte, I'm all over Charlotte to cover against UTSA. I should start with that. They started conference play extremely rough. They were down and out. They were terrible. They've won 5 of their last 6. They're playing for a solid seed in the Conference USA tournament. And finally, that defense, that pack line defense, Ron Sanchez has been in North Carolina. He's been here in Charlotte for, I think, 4 or 5 years now, maybe 4. And the pack line never really stuck. That defense never really figured out its footing. They finally have. It may have taken 4.5 years. But now they're going on the road to San Antonio against one of the worst teams in Conference USA. This is a momentum spot for Charlotte. If they can go back on the road, pick up this huge win, they're setting themselves up for a Cinderella CUSA run. So I'm all over Charlotte here against UTSA. I think this team is gelling. I think they have the dudes. They have one of the best big men in all of mid-major basketball, and Ali Khalifa. Hammer Charlotte against UTSA.
Hammer it. Drop the hammer, my friend. I love it. My last bet, and you know what? Maybe it's a homer bet because I'm a Michigan State friend. I'm a Michigan State guy. But you know what? Izzo, last game of the year at home is an insane 65% ATS. That is absolutely insane. And Ohio State, do you remember about a month ago when Ohio State per KenPom had the #1 offense efficiency? They were so
but that's hilarious.
Offensive efficiency, and then they lost 11 in a row. I mean, they just completely fell off the face of the earth. They have huge issues, and it was I'm spacing on the guy's name. They had a one and done guy, and I really feel the coaching staff thought he was going to be here one more year.
Yikes!
And losing that guy has just kind of forced everyone up one spot. So they really don't have their 1B is their 1A. You know what I mean? So they're just really against the 8 ball here. I think they're just trying to get through the season. I love Michigan State here. 6 anything Michigan State -6 or better. Anything over 6 I wouldn't take. Now, my friend, I'd like to thank you for coming on. I love talking basketball with you, my friend.
Can I say one more thing real quick?
Yep.
I have a hot take before we get up on out of here.
All right, go for it, my friend.
Purdue will not make it out the first weekend.
I can see it.
Purdue is trash. Purdue's terrible. I hate Purdue. That's all.
I will say this, and I'll give props to Caleb. Caleb pointed it out. And Caleb mentioned it, and I was actually at the game where Purdue, I think it was Yale. They played Yale last year in the round of 64. I have never seen a team not be a team during the timeout more than Purdue.
Huh.
I mean, that really kind of stuck out.
Yeah.
How they really just didn't really gel. Yeah, I can see it. I think their guards are very inexperienced. You have Edey, who's I feel the toughest guy to defend in basketball, but I also feel he's the toughest guy to officiate. And then again, in foul trouble, they really do struggle to score.
Mm-hmm.
Jack, I'd like to thank you for coming on. Why don't you tell everyone where they can find you and the DRF Sportsbook on Twitter, my friend?
Yeah, you can follow me at FITZ all the way, Fitz all the way. If you follow my personal Twitter, you'll see plenty of JMU sports, Charlotte baseball, Conference USA baseball, everything like that. So take that with a grain of salt, if you will, and then follow DRF Sportsbook at DRF Sportsbook on all social media channels. If you're in Iowa, you can bet with DRF Sportsbook. If you're not in Iowa, you can just follow along for all the fun, memes, videos, reactions, everything like that that's going down over at DRF Sportsbook.
Make sure to give Jack and the DRF Sportsbook a follow. We'll be back here next week. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll talk soon.